All right, we are live, everybody. Welcome to the show. Let's see here. How many people we got here? Oh, I don't have that little panel I had before here. Sometimes it takes a couple minutes for people to get here. Welcome to show up to our first live interview with Mr. Jerry Hall here today. Ron was on a little bit earlier. Ron's from Southern Illinois, and he was asking me about, I think he's just going to try some tournaments for the first time this year here. So we'll have to fill in a little bit of that.
That's
Hey,
cool.
Darius, welcome to the show.
You say Darius is with us?
Yeah.
Darius
Did
is
you
an old
see?
school guy.
Oh, yeah, you know him?
Yeah. He's
So
a
you can't see the comments? You can't see the comments, Jerry?
no, not really.
Okay. Oh, I can select
Put it
them.
up, I can.
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
Thanks
Darius
for
is a different.
subscribing, Darius. Ron's here. All right, guys. Well, let's kick off the show here. We have our first big special guest here, our initial actual interview live stream here, Mr. Jerry Call from Kentucky here. He's been fishing since he was a kid. He's been fishing the BFLs and the USA Bass in the last like 3 years or so. Again, that's just when I started again. He's a boater. He has done some co-angling and might do some co-angling. So we'll have a good A and B here. We fished a bunch the last few years. You've seen him on one of my videos already as practicing at Kentucky Lake before the last super tournament here. And might be on Kentucky Lake in February, Ron. Oh, yeah, the February. Jerry and I were out there last February 22nd or 27th, was it? Was that a day on the lake or what?
That one was brutal. That was 4 and 5 footers and cold and bad. That was a tough one.
40-mile-an-hour gusts on the north that rips right down the lake. It was 37 degrees at takeoffs, and yeah, there was 4 and 5 footers.
Yeah. Some
you bet.
broke off transoms and swamp boats. It was a bad day.
Yeah, you bet you got to be prepared with gear uh, and and warmth and safety.
I played it safe that day. I think I caught several fish. I only caught 3 keepers, I think, and I didn't really have a good finish. So
Yeah, I probably caught 6 or 7. 5 were bass, and none of them were keepers. They're all, man, I was king of the 13 and a half, 14 and a half incher last year down there.
yeah, that tournament I had a lot of fish a couple days.
Uh-oh, we scared Ronnie out of it.
Hey, Kentucky and Barkley are no joke in the spring. Anytime really, you better know what you're doing and have good equipment.
Yeah, yeah. And we'll get to a whole lot more than that. Um, First thing I was going to do, guys, here, give a quick recap of the week like we did last time here. I think it's pretty interesting here. If you saw last week's, actually did some fancy Excel graphics. Some people liked them. It kind of confused a couple people, so we'll just talk about it this week here. The new rules in the BFL this year are there's only a limit of 3 for the co-angler, still a limit of 5 for the boater. So last weekend there was one BFL South Carolina, the Savannah River Division on Lake Kiawe. Co-angler, 3 fish, 8081. 10th place was 3 fish for 609, and 19th place, the last one they paid, was 3 fish, 505. So kind of gives you an idea what's going on there. They were catching good numbers, but they were relatively small fish. Other big tournament this weekend, which you guys are probably watching, was the first MLF Toyota Series on Sam Rayburn here. Mr. Brody Campbell won. I can talk to him. I actually had the pleasure of fishing with him on a regional in Dale Hollow 2 years ago here, and Jerry was down there too.
Yeah.
And that's a crazy lake. Talk about scope. And we go out, our first spot of the day, he starts out at 50 feet off a point and then heads that way into 80, 90, and 100 feet. He's scoping bass from 40, 50 feet. He's got a 1 ounce head on a 2.5 and 3 inch minnow. He had 5 fish in a boat in 45 minutes. It was crazy. I never saw anything like it. Anyways, hats off to him. He had 70 pounds in 3 days. He had the lead, the whole time, 5, 5, and 5 fish here. And he talked about he was out deep scoping here. And just by the way, the co-angler won that tournament. One of the professional co-anglers in the business, one of the top echelon guys, Alan Bernicki, who was out of Illinois. I think he started out of like Kankakee or one of the southern suburbs of that. He fishes around the country as a co-angler. He had 27 pounds as a co-angler. Now, in the Toyotas, you still get 5 fish limit as a co-angler. So he had 5, 5, and 3 fish. It's a 2-day tournament, and the top 25 or 15 or 20, I forgot it was, go to day 3 here. So I reached out to him, and I asked him if he would bless us with his presence on the show. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff going on in his life right now. So sure. I'm giving it a try, guys, here. Maybe because his heart's back with the Illini guys. I dropped that we were hitting co-angling from the Illini division, so hopefully we'll be able to get him on. Co-angler 10 had 4 1 and 1 fish for 17 pounds. Co-angler 20, 4 1 and 0 fish for a total of 11 pounds. And co-angler last payer 29 had 3 1 and 0 for 8 pounds. But here's the kicker of the whole tournament. The biggest bass, I don't know if you guys saw it, Jerry, did you see it?
I did.
The biggest bass in the whole tournament caught by a co-angler, Mitchell Adams, 12-15, like a 13-pounder. When you go down to Texas, Florida, that stuff's possible.
Right.
So that's pretty crazy. All right, without further ado here, old school bassin with Jerry. Jerry, how'd you catch the fishing bug? What got you into it?
Well, my dad and my grandfather really got me fishing when I was younger. And my mom bought me a subscription to Bassmaster when I was probably 11 or 12 years old. And back then, no World Wide Web back then. So
no.
I was definitely old school. And I was reading articles. I was a voracious reader. I read every article I could get my hands on. And I was blessed that I grew up around a bunch of strip pits, and they were pretty much free access back in the day. And as soon as I could, I was on those pits with a 12-foot John boat, trying out all these new tactics and any lures I could get my hands on. So I pretty much self-taught a lot. When Dad was working, I would experiment. I would read about something in Bassmaster, and I would literally go to the lake and put it to work. And I learned a lot that way.
Oh, yeah. I grew up in the Chicago area. I had grandparents up in Wisconsin. We did a lot of Lake Michigan fishing, typically trout, salmon, that kind of fishing. We didn't have a boat. Maybe going on a charter once a year was a super treat. And also like lake perch fishing for eating that day here. So
right.
I really didn't get into bass fishing until I went to SIU in Carbondale. And there's a little on-campus lake, and I'm just walking by, and this guy's like flipping it in the dirty weeds and stuff. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm bass fishing. And I sit there for about 5 minutes. He pulls out like a 2.5 pounder. I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. What was it on? And to this day, I remember it was on a little like shaky head, and it was a Berkeley, the old, brown, plum, and black power worm.
Right.
Yeah, like a 7-incher.
Right.
Yeah, kind of got me hooked.
I just, I kept at it. I kept learning, and eventually, my now tournament partner in the USA Bassin Series was my college roommate. His dad brought home a flyer for a tournament, and it was pretty close to. His dad worked in Owensboro as a welder, and he was like, "Hey, do you guys want to get in this tournament?" And we're like, maybe, what's the deal? And he said, well, it's these little lakes, and it's electric motor only. They're going to let all these big bass boats get in there, but you guys don't have a bass boat, but you have a John boat. So, hey, you ought to do this. And we did. And what's crazy is we won it. The very first tournament.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, the very first tournament he and I fished, we caught 2 fish. I caught a 5-pound, 1 ounce fish about 45 minutes into the tournament, and he caught a 2-pound, 1 ounce fish about 45 minutes to go in the tournament.
Yeah.
By 5 pounds. There was only about 6 fish weighed in all day. This was in March. It was cold. The wind was blowing 30 miles an hour. It was a terrible day. We literally caught 2 fish and won the tournament and won about $1,000.
Wow. Start of a career.
Yeah. And that summer, me and him won a couple, and then I think he started fishing with his brother. I started fishing with my dad. Me and my dad won a couple, and it just kind of blossomed into that. And for years, I didn't tournament fish. I duck hunted. I was a huge duck hunter for years, and I had a Go Devil boat, a mud motor boat, and I duck hunted. Now I fished out of that boat, but I fished the swamps that I duck hunted. And that was another thing that kind of expanded my repertoire, because I was fishing 3, 4, 5, no more than 6 or 7 foot deep water all the time, whether it was cold in February or 100 degrees in July. And I had to learn how to make fish bite where I was at. So it taught me a lot as well. And then
shallow water, old school bassin. That's the theme tonight, guys.
If you fast forward about 20 years, my son got interested in high school bass fishing, and I was like, hey, I've been wanting to buy a boat for a couple years now. And about that time, I got transferred down here to the lake. They had shut my plant down at Paradise. And when I got transferred, I bought a boat. I was very, very close to the water. And we started doing high school tournaments. And that got the bug started back in me to get back on the water. And that's what
the itch. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So let's see here. You said you started BFLs about 3 years ago. Which ones did you fish?
I fished the Illini division my first year, and that's how I met you. And I think I finished 19th in points the first year. I did get a couple checks. I think 11th at the Ohio River, and I think I finished 7th or 8th in the super tournament down here.
Yeah, you made day 2 of the super tournament. I remember I was at my local little lake here, Creve Coeur Lake here, going, man, why didn't I make it? I was looking at the live feed.
Yeah, that tournament was a good tournament for me because going in, I probably knew I couldn't find enough fish to win it. But I told my girlfriend, I was like, if I can get 2 limits, if I can catch 2 limits, I'm pretty sure if I get a limit the first day, I can make the second day. Because the fishing tough 2 years ago, or 3 years ago now, the lake was fishing tough. It was hot weather. The shad were everywhere. Fat bass were scattered. And I caught a limit the first day. It was about 11 pounds. Done the same thing the second day. I fished pretty clean. I only lost 1 keeper fish that would have bumped me up a spot or 2. But I executed my plan. I made the second day, and I got points, and made the regional down Dale Hollow.
Yeah, that was a good time here. And you said you've been doing USA Bassin. Yeah, I've done some USA Bassins out of Shelby. I was going to maybe do some different ones. They're a smaller circuit. It's a team buddy circuit. If you guys don't know, it's been 80, 90, maybe $100 this year. It's only $35 to join. You can fish any USA Bassin anywhere. So it's pretty cool. It's really local, and they have a regional and all that stuff too that gets bigger as well.
Yeah, and what got me into those last year, during the winter time, I was kind of looking through stuff, and I saw that they were going to have the Senior Bass Classic on Kentucky and Barkley Lake in November. There again, November in Kentucky, it could be 10 degrees or it could be 60 degrees. You know, you kind of never know. And
Right.
I really like pretty much from the end of August until it gets too cold up in December. That's really one of my favorite times to fish is in the fall. And I told my college roommate, he's like, hey man, we need to fish enough to qualify for this Senior Bass Classic. And we fished just enough last year to get our points to get in it. And it was kind of the same kind of deal. We went out, we caught 2 limits, and we finished 8th. We cut a check, and had a good classic. And that was about, I think it was about 90 boats in that, and there were some big time hammers. You know, Moorhead was
Oh
in,
yeah.
Billy and Sean Penn, those guys were in there.
I was lucky enough to draw Dan early last year on Kentucky Lake. Great guy. Learned a lot. Too bad my video got zapped on my computer. I had it all edited. I spent like 5-6 hours editing it. We had a lightning storm and bazinga, hard drive, bye-bye. And I didn't back that one up. Long story. Anyways, just all the problems I had last year, trying to get the camera going, trying to figure out how to edit, trying to figure out YouTube. It takes a while. It's work, guys. I got to tell you, but it's rewarding. So what are you going to do this year? What are your plans for tournament fishing this year?
Well, I looked at the regionals for the BFL and where they're going to be. The LBL division is going back to Dale Hollow. And I enjoyed Dale Hollow. I did. I probably caught 14 to 16 pounds of fish every day, but they were the wrong kind. They were
Yep. They got that slot limit down there on
Yeah.
Dale too. I caught like 2 4-pound smallmouth and couldn't weigh in either one because what was it? 16 to 20 or 21 was the no catch slot.
They have to be over 21 inches or under
16.
Maybe
I think it was 15 was a keeper, and it had to be 15 or 16 or over 21.
21, that's right. And I was catching 4-pound smallmouth on top water in 60 and 70 foot of water and turning them loose and crying.
A lot of people were.
Yeah.
So what you gonna do this year?
The Illini is going back to the Mississippi River, and that's more
for the regional.
That's right. And that's my plan, and my goal is to make the regional again, get to the Mississippi, and hopefully make that top 3 or whatever it's going to be now to go to the All-American.
Oh yeah, that totally fits you. You know, I just scooted into the regional. I got videos from day 1 and day 2 up there. You know, it was fun up there. I've never been up there. That'll suit you well here. And then the Illini Super Tournament is back down on Kentucky Lake this year too. I mean, it's just lined up perfectly for you.
Well, that played into it too, because that's kind of my favorite time of year there. When it gets tough, I'm a grinder. I throw a crankbait probably a lot more than I should, but I've developed some tactics and things that get me through, and I change up the kinds of crankbaits or the style of crankbaits. You know, I'm not just out there on ledges. I catch a lot of fish in the dirt, 2-3 foot.
Yeah.
You know,
Trey McKinney is famous for like fishing in a foot of water and just, you know, catching huge bags.
Right. And it's all about bait fish, and even the scopers will tell you, you know, the fish aren't here today. Sometimes they're gone tomorrow. Sometimes they'll be back in 10 minutes. Fish are moving a lot in these lakes. They move a lot. And
especially the deeper fish that they're scoping, they're pelagic. I mean, they are just moving the whole time. That's what Brody was showing me. And in fact, Alan Bernicki had a little interview in MLF you can go find on site saying the same thing. And not only, you know, is the guy scoping them, but you can't scope them with a 1/4 ounce in a minute. You got to have like a 3/4 ounce or at least a 1/2 ounce. You got to get out there and you got to get down there really quickly because they are just moving and grooving. I found that out this fall on my own little lake here, just following, the fall bait balls. And man, I mean, you got to be in your trolling motor, and they're just moving.
Those Del Hollow fish actually move faster than what I was used to.
Yeah,
they really moved fast. The smallmouths, not so much. What I found at Del Hollow, and I was scoping. I mean, just because I'm an old school guy, don't mean
you got to. You got to.
Because I do. But what I was doing, I was live scoping bait balls out in 40, 50, 60 foot of water. And I would see fish positioned under the bait balls. And, my mistake was I caught a couple fish early in practice doing this that were like 4-pound largemouth that were they were the size I needed. But what I found out was later, the largemouth wasn't quite on that top water as much as I thought. And most of the fish that I would see if a fish was above 12 or 15 foot of water, 90% of the time it was a smallmouth.
It was at Dale. That's what freaked me out at Dale. The smallmouths were like at 25 feet of water, and the largemouth he was catching were 35, 40 feet of water. Yeah. I'm like, that's kind of opposite of what you might think.
Yeah, and going into that, I really, it was a learning curve for me. But I had fun. I caught a lot of fish. I caught a lot of 4-pound smallmouth on a top water, which it's a dream to do that. But unfortunately, couldn't score them. So
yeah, both my big smallmouth came on a big old topwater walking dog.
Yeah, but
so how do you define old school bassin, Jerry?
Well, I think there's a lot of tactics out there. There's a lot of lures that have kind of fell by the wayside, and we're guilty, right? We're always going to tackle stores. We're always looking online. This time of year, you want to see what comes out from iCast or whatever it is, and whatever's hot and new, that's what we want to try. We're suckers for that sometimes. Well, I still dig around for the old stuff, and I still use some old lures and some things that, the best way for me to describe it is kind of the time period of the year that we're in, what I would use starting now, going into spring. I'm going to start off with something like, I don't know if you can see it here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's a rock.
I know exactly what that is.
Yeah. It's a rock crawler. And I'll go with a couple different colors of rock crawler, go into some reds. Chartreuse is really good over on Barkley. The water is usually stained a little more on the Cumberland River.
That one you had right there is my favorite one up by our dirty stained lakes.
The largest fish I've caught on Kentucky and Barkley Lake in the last 5 years came on this, and it was probably 7.5-pound largemouth over on Barkley.
Sweet.
But
so yeah, those are the 55s, right? They're getting down 9, 12 feet.
19, I think.
Yeah.
You don't have to fish them that deep. A lot of the fish I'll catch will be in that 5 to 8 feet range. And if I'm not throwing a rock crawler, I'm probably throwing. Can you see what that is?
Oh yeah, the old demon.
That's a demon DT6 or a DT8. A lot of times I'll throw a DT8. I know everybody throws a DT6, but I think the DT8 is just a little more versatile. It gets me another foot or two down.
Yeah.
And I can adjust my rod angle if I want to fish it a little shallower. I crank, and I'll show you here. I use, and this is a 30-something-year-old rod. This is an American Rodsmith David Fritz fiberglass rod. And I've got it on there's a Revo Ambassador reel. And it's only a 6.6 rod. And I'll spool it with 14-pound, either Berkeley XL or Bass Pro Shops XL. I still use mono. And 99% of everybody today uses fluorocarbon.
And why do you use that mono on non-top water?
I like it because it's a little slower reaction, and especially in the pre-spawn. When those fish are sluggish and slow, I do not want to jerk that bait out of their mouth.
Right.
Graphite rods that guys use and the fluorocarbon that is an instant zero stretch line, if you're not careful, you will jerk the bait out of their mouth or you will rip it
Yeah.
from their lip and you will lose
Yep.
that fish. That's
Yep.
why guys have so much trouble keeping fish on rattle traps, keeping fish on these DT6s when they jump.
Yep.
I've fished these rods for, well, since I was about 25 years, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna be, I'm mid 50s, so I hunt these rods up. I've had a couple for years. I got lucky and found two more. I was looking online in a pile of
Oh,
rods.
really?
Holy mackerel, there's two. I messaged the guy, or I actually seen one. I messaged the guy. He says, "Hey, man, there's two of them." I said, "I want them both."
I'll take a both.
Yeah, I'll take them.
Awesome.
But
Awesome.
I think the rod, the mono, the style of fishing that I do, it all kind of plays into how I incorporate all these baits. And it's something you have to learn over years. You can't just go out and learn this in 5 minutes. And those rods aren't available.
Right.
Good luck finding one. Now there are some other options out there. There's some old Team Daiwa Rick Clunn glass rods. There's some old Skeet Reese rods, and I do have a Skeet Reese. I think it's a Wright and McGill, maybe.
It's got to be yellow. Is it yellow?
Hello. It is, and it's a 6.6 rod. And I crank with these things, and I've learned. I got a good friend down in Murray that works on my rods. I actually had him strip one and re-guide it 2 years ago.
Yeah.
One of my it was a Lew's Fritz rod that was fiberglass, and those old rods to me give me a different feel, and I can feel that bait. Maybe not as sharp as somebody with a graphite composite rod, but that rod and the line and the lures that I'm using helps me. It also gives me confidence, and I think confidence is
it's such a mental game.
It
Yeah.
is a mental game, and it is a mental game. And some of these lures I've used for years and years, and I would, like I said, I would go from like the rock crawler to a DT6 when fish get just. You can go out right now and you can throw this, and that's a big Excalibur. This one, that's a knocker. That's a one knocker Excalibur.
Yeah.
Booyah makes the newer version. These are the old ones. Or this is the rattle. That's the rattle version right there. These old Rapala clackers.
Oh, you know what? I was just organizing tackle and I forgot. I had like 2 or 3 of those. I just found in an old box. Yeah, I got that exact same one. The clown
color. This old clown color, that is a great Kentucky Lake color early in the year. You can throw with a rogue. You can throw it on a trap. If they a DT6 in clown, I would throw it because that is a great color on Kentucky Lake. If the water's got any stain to it at all, that's a great color.
Hey, Jerry, Brad was saying he lives in Murray and was looking for someone to re-guide rods. Where was your guy that did that?
Ken Busey. Ken Busey is his name, Bucy.
And where's he at?
Well, he's down in Murray. I don't have his address here. If you want to contact me after the show, maybe we can put a link up. Or also, usually he's at the Edaville, Kentucky bait swap meet that we're going to have here. I think it's about February the 15th. And Ken usually shows up at that show. That's a good place to catch up with him. But Ken does an excellent job. He fixes, I think he fixes the rods for Jinko and maybe the Murray State anglers too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Ken's super nice guy. He's a big time. He used to be bass fish a lot. He's a big time crappie guy now. So he's usually on the lake. So you got to catch him when you can catch him.
Right. Hey, we're coming up on late winter. Not to pre-spawn here. What would you be throwing if you were out in the next couple of weeks here?
Well, these baits that I've just showed you, the rock crawler, the DT6, the DT8, the rattle traps, or a rogue, or you can go to a mega bass or a Berkeley stunner. You know, it all, a lot of it has to do with where the fish, in what part of the water column they're in. If
Right. How would you be working those mid-depth cranks?
I'm gonna crawl them right now because the fish is it's cold. I'm gonna crawl them.
Yeah, I know that's traditional wisdom. You got the tactical bassin guys say, hey, sometimes that works sometimes, but sometimes they're just not going to bite unless you rip them or you jerk them. But with more specialized, tighter wobbles, and they're pushing their bait too. But like the flat siders, right?
Well,
Sometimes you work any flat siders.
they're fishing on Chickamauga or they're fishing on Clear Lake. Well, it's about a 8 or 10 degree difference sometimes between Chickamauga and here. Even though it's Tennessee River,
Yeah.
it's a little farther south. They don't get the weather we get. It's a little different deal. And if I feel like I need to speed up, I always can.
Yeah.
But I'm going to start off slow.
Yeah. What about the lipless? How are you going to work the lipless?
I'm going to slow crank them. I'm going to keep them close to the bottom, and I'm just going to turn them. I might even do a lift and drop. I'm going to let the fish tell me what they want. And a lot of it has to do with which lure that I'm using. Like if I think the fish are shallow, that clacking wrap will run shallower than the Excalibur. And if they're really deep, I'll probably go to a red eye shad, which falls pretty much vertical. And I can keep that red eye shad, especially the 3/4 ounce red eye shad. I can keep it deeper than either one of those other baits.
Yeah. Yeah. What about those oh man, now they have winter or late winter uh the little blade baits, but in the old days they had those, what were they called? Little Georges or whatever with the little little blade on the back.
Yeah,
You ever
tailspin.
use any of those? Yeah, tail spinners. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got some little Georges. I'm kind of a man's collector. I collect some mans. I collect some old Normans. Um, the deep little end is another one that's good early in the year. Or, Kentucky Lake's famous for a number 7 shad wrap.
Or yeah.
The brown crawdad shad wrap, or if it's a lot clearer water, you can go to a Helsinki shad or whatever. That number 7 shad wrap in cold water is famous on Kentucky Lake.
Yeah.
I throw it on real light bait casting gear, but I have been known to get a spinning rod out and throw a number 5. You can't hardly throw a number 5 on bait casting gear. You
Yeah,
can
just to
throw
yeah.
a 9 on it, but that
Yeah.
5, if you got to get it out, you usually got to get the spinning rod out.
Are you gonna fish any slow worms or Carolina rigs or anything at this time of year?
Do anything, I'd probably Carolina rig a crawl or a lizard, and to me that comes just a touch later. When that water temperature gets up in the 50, 52 range. I mean, we're a ways from that. I haven't been on the lake because of my boat and the insurance deal going on, but I'd venture to say it's high 30s, low 40s right now. And I'm going to do slow, whatever it is.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Is there any ice on the lake, or do you ever get any ice in some areas like the bays or the marinas or anything?
Yeah, there was ice last week in a lot of places. I crossed over the Wabash River going to Evansville a couple of days ago, and it had pretty good ice flow still in the Wabash. And some friends of mine had pictures of ice on the Ohio at Cincinnati. So
yeah, I couldn't believe it. I crossed over the Mississippi in St. Louis to go over Central Illinois to my lake there. I left in the morning at like 10 o'clock, and there was a lot of ice by the Rocks Bridge. And when I came back, it was gone because it got up to 50 degrees.
Yeah. We had a big fish kill in the Ohio River, a big shad kill the past couple of days. and a lot of them got sucked into our condensers at work, and
Yeah.
It's been rough. But the same thing's happening on the lake, I promise you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Big time shad kill. A lot of times, if you're there when it happens to start with, you can catch fish on that rogue or a jerk bait of some kind.
Yeah. They're getting free meals, right?
Yeah, the fish live in it year round. They're going to take advantage of the dying shad. So that's kind of a pattern you can run this early in the year, especially if you witness a big shad die. If you can see the fish dying in the water, then you're in the middle of it. Now they'll gorge yourself, and in a few days that bite will get tough again. They literally eat so much while they can that it can get tough.
Yeah, I wish I still had it on my phone. About 3 years ago, when I was taking my boat in for winterization by Shelbyville, I go on a spillway right below the dam, and it's the Kaskaskia River. It's famous for muskie. Lots of huge muskie cut down there. And I'm sitting there, and I'm seeing these muskies. I shit you not. There would be dead shad kind of slowly going down the river. They would come up and they would stick their eyeballs above the water to look. I don't know if they were like checking out if it was fake from a fisherman and looking for the shad, and then they'd like maybe go get it. It was the weirdest thing I ever saw. Ever see anything like that?
My dad actually used to catch bass like the day after. He fished some beaver ponds a lot. We wade fished when I was a kid a lot, and I've seen him take a spinner bait, and what he liked was a cotton cordell spinner bait. And I've seen him go the day after, literally the ice melted. And usually in those shallow beaver ponds, they were attached to a swamp that run all the way to the Green River. So there was gizzard shad and threadfin shad in this swamp. And they would get trapped in these beaver ponds. And when it iced over, it would kill some of them. And literally the day that the ice melted, I've seen him take that cotton cordell in 40-degree water and pull a wake and catch fish right on the surface. But
Yeah.
surface to them there, I mean, the water was only 4 or 5 foot deep. So the fish could literally be sitting on the bottom and feel the bait above them on the surface and come up and crush it. And I've seen a lot of 4 and 5 pound fish doing that.
So you're going to be, I don't think you brought out a slow roll spinner bait, but
I did.
That's kind of traditionally a pre-spawn thing, right?
It is, and I'll tell you where I love to use that in those stripper pits back home. When they reclaimed those pits, a lot of them, they made roads, these road beds down into the pit that the dozers would use to come up and out of the pit. Well, a lot of those lakes had grass in them, milfoil or hydrilla or coontail, sometimes a combination of all three. And the lakes were very clear. And a lot of times this time of year, I would take a single willow or a single Indiana, and I would position, and I'm talking an old John boat, a 12-foot Ouachita John boat.
Yeah.
I would position myself parallel with those road beds, and I would throw that spinner bait and let it hit the bottom in 15 or 18 feet of water and slow roll it up that road bed. And I caught a lot of fish. Those road beds a lot of times made the grass edge, the grass the edge of the road bed, and those fish would position themselves on that edge. And I caught a lot of fish on a slow road, single willow or single Indiana.
Yeah, Darius here is saying it's been a great year for the flutter spoon this winter. Yeah, that's another one I hear about.
Seen some of his pictures. He's caught some nice fish on a spoon.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen some of them. He's caught some good ones. I'm waiting on a phone call to go with him, though.
Oh, yeah? Darius, you want to share any color secrets or jigging secrets with that guy?
Yeah.
He looks like he's got a big old fish on his portrait picture there.
Darius is a hammer. He can catch them.
So does he fish the LBL too?
I don't think Darius fishes the LBL BFLs. He kind of slips around a day or two before the tournament, a day or two after the tournament. He mops them up.
Cleanup man.
Yeah.
All right. I think Ron was asking earlier. Ron, you're asking about, kind of just getting into tournaments and being a co-angler. I made a video last year about some of the etiquette, some of the strategies, some of the gear packing, uh, how to go to the MLF page and sign up here. Um, it's all about the same. The main difference this year, at least in MLF, as a co-angler, is that 3 fish limit, and you used to get a preferences linking up, but not, I'd say maybe just 50% of people linked up before. And then it goes in order of when you signed up for the tournament. So I signed up for them like the day they open up, so I didn't have a problem. The first year at Ohio River, I had a problem because I did boater for 2 tournaments and realized, oh, I was getting my butt kicked. I wasn't ready. And oh my God, what have I learned? 3 years co-angling. It's just simply amazing here. But you got to get yourself a link and go to that. I put a link on the last live stream here. It's a Facebook link, Phoenix Bass Boats. I think you can just search for it. And everyone's posting for, wanting links and stuff here. And with a lot of co-anglers kind of backing out because of forward-facing sonar or costs or whatever here, it seems to be, the co-anglers, you can probably hop into tournaments, and boaters are having a hard time. Now, the advantage for the boater, MLF said, was they hated boater on boater draws. So now you're going to know ahead of time. You're only going to get confirmed for the tournament when they have equal amount of people, whether you have a link or not, but a link guarantees it. So I don't know, Jerry, what do you think about that?
Well, if you'll remember, that's how I met you. I think I posted
Oh, yeah.
and said, hey, I need a link for the Illini division. And I think I'm pretty sure you were like the first person that said, hey, I'll link with you. And
oh, yeah, I was talking to links because I had a link from, you'll probably see him on Facebook, Randy Miller. He's actually got a marina in northern Illinois, just the southern suburbs. We're all ready to go, and he's like, dude, he like broke a leg or something, and he had to get a screw in. And he's like, I'm out. I'm like, okay, what am I going to do now? And I hopped right on and got you.
And stuff happens, life happens.
Yeah, yeah.
At the Dale Hollow Regional, we had some boaters go home, and my second day, I knew I was out of the tournament. I didn't weigh a fish the first day. I caught a bunch of fish. I didn't weigh a fish. And I ended up taking 2 co-anglers out the second day. And
I remember we met them at dinner, and they lost their links. Yeah.
Both of them caught some fish that day. I caught some fish. I got to weigh a couple fish in that day. But it's a learning experience, and I've got to travel and fish some lakes. We went to Pickwick last year. My co-angler caught 2 4-pounders behind me the first day.
Yeah, ain't that not like a 12-15 though, huh?
Right. But 2 4-pounders got him a check. So and most of my co-anglers usually do pretty good. They're around fish. And like I said, I'm usually not out. I'm scoping, but my scoping is kind of old school scoping. I'm looking for a brush pile. I'm looking for a crappie bed. I'm looking for a stump, and I'm probably going to pitch a jig to it or run a DT6 over it or something of that nature. It's rare that I put a jig and minnow and spinning rod in my hand. I'm not above it. I probably need to do more of it. It's the one thing I'll probably work on maybe a little bit this year, just to try to expand. I'm always learning. Fishing, that's what makes it interesting. That's what keeps us coming back.
It's always a challenge, no matter how much you know. Every day is different. Every hour is different. You just kind of got, you get a little more confidence to kind of say, okay, this isn't working. Is it technique? Is it clarity? Is it temperature? Is it season? Is it time of the lake? And it allows you to kind of, it's a head game more than anyone imagines because of all of those uncontrolled variables in fishing. Yeah. No one knows it all. Certainly there's guys dominating, but at any one time, different people are winning. And some of it is luck, a lot of it is skill,
Yeah.
As a co-angler, You know, you sometimes the boater cooperates with you or you share some sites, but you know, mainly he's fishing his spots with his strategy, and you know, you can do different stuff. And if he's not catching, you need to be doing something different to figure it out. And if he is catching, maybe you want to, if they're really biting, you want to do what he's doing. If that's the only bites you're getting all day, yeah. I mean, last year in Ohio River here, I haven't done a lot of tube fishing. This guy's like tube, 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 and I'm like, okay, throw everything away, tubes, man. It was just the deal, you know.
Right. And you have to pay attention to your surroundings. You know,
Yeah.
I'm like every other boater. I go into a tournament with preconceived notions of what I want to throw. You know, I want to throw a DT6. I want to throw, you know, a rattleback jig or a Carolina rig lizard. But when I get into the flow of the day, I may have to change. I got to listen to nature. I got to look at my surroundings. And, you know, is there a shad spawn going on? Is there, you know, the weather? That first tournament last year is a good example. You know, the waves were 4 and 5 footers. I chose not to run to some fish because I really didn't want to take a chance on damaging my boat. I really didn't.
Yeah, it was crazy out there.
Well, we're not fishing for $100,000.
No.
We're fishing for
life and safety number one. Boat safety number 2.
Right. And I can't afford to go tear a boat up every week, you know. So I chose to play it safe, stick around close, and just kind of grind. Well, I didn't pay attention about noon. That wind laid down. And could have run
about 10:30, 11. I remember it's like I was peeling down, the sun came up, the wind kicked down, it got pretty pleasant, but the lake was still shaking and baking a little bit. It doesn't come down right away.
It was not 4 or 5 footers. It was 2 and 3 footers that you could have in. And I should have done some moves. I chose not to, and it cost me. And in that LBL division, there's so many hammers there. You can't.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
You can't afford to not weigh in 5. And hey, I'm learning. It's last year was my second year in the BFL, so I'm still learning. You know, and I cost myself 30 spots probably by culling my 5th and my 6th fish last year in a tournament.
Oops.
So, yeah, done it.
Well, you know what? You ain't gonna do that again, are you?
No, I will not. I mean, I was excited that I caught my 5th fish, but I went back and I caught 4 keepers in about 100-yard stretch of buck bushes. And this is definitely old school. These fish were fry garden, okay? And I found them doing this in practice a couple 3 days before the tournament, and I couldn't catch them. If they
that was the March tournament, right? You're talking about?
What's that?
That's the March tournament you're talking about now, right?
I think it was April.
Oh, maybe it's April. Okay.
I think this is the tournament you fished with Dan.
Oh, that was a later one. Yeah, that was the next one. Yeah.
It may have been May, but these fish were fry garden, and they had these fry like herded up into these buck bushes, and I was pitching a spinner bait, but the spinner bait literally had to be almost in the bush or they would not hit it.
Oh yeah.
And I caught these 4 keepers in about a 50-yard stretch. I went and caught my 5th keeper across the lake, and I come back. I go back down the same stretch. I catch a 4-pounder.
Yeah.
Put him in the boat, put him straight in the live well. Well, now I got a cull. I got 6 fish. Well, my co-angler, and this is going to sound bad, but my co-angler, he's back there trying to help me. And if anything, his presence confused me, and I got, like I said, I was hyped up a little bit. I was a little
blood's flowing.
I was a little juiced, and he handed me a fish, and I weighed it. I looked at it. It was definitely the smallest fish. I tossed it. I had a second fish in the dip net, and it had a broken cull tag on it. somehow the cull tag had broken. I reached and got that fish, pulled the cull tag out of its mouth, and before I could say don't do it,
No. Oh, geez. Oh, geez. Yeah.
I had 3 hours of the tournament left. I never caught another keeper.
Another, yeah.
Cost me 30 spots.
Well, you think that costs you making the regional?
No, because I made the regional.
Oh, that's right. But you didn't go.
But yeah, no, I fished it. I fished the regional at Pickwick.
Oh, that's right. What am I thinking? That's right. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, I think I ended up last year 38th in points.
Man,
I probably would have ended up.
That's a heck of an achievement on that lake with those guys. I mean,
I probably would have made the top 20 if I don't call that fish. And I know that sounds kind of stupid, a 2.5 pound fish, but the weights are so tight. And you know, that one tournament was a 3-fish tournament.
Yeah.
And it made the weights even that much tighter.
Yeah.
So
yeah, guys, that was they had a weird schedule last year. It's the first year I fished LBL. I think because they had some big tournaments, they had to miss an early season tournament. So they normally don't have a tournament in August. So the water is so hot and everything, they're like 3 fish for everyone just for conservation. And that was very different.
Yeah, it was. And the reason behind the schedule last year, you know, that they had the Toyotas, they had the invitationals both here in prime time when we normally would have had BFLs, but because they were here, they took precedent over the BFLs.
Right.
We basically lost a month of fishing in the spring for the BFL series that we wouldn't have. And it's probably going to end up happening, you know, similar this year with the pros coming, another Toyota this year.
Yeah, I'm fishing that one. That's the Plains, and that will be in April, later in April.
Yeah, and it'll be a great tournament. It's prime time. But in the past, that was our prime time. That was
BFL
prime time.
Yeah.
So
and isn't BPT or the Opens? There's going to be another big series there this year, right? Which one is it? I forgot.
They're coming back in June. I think the first or second week of June.
Which one?
The BPT Bass Pro Tour.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think the Bassmaster Invitational is going to be back too. I think it's coming up here in maybe in March or something.
Oh, really? Wow. Is that place going to be rocking this year?
It's going to get hit hard this year. It is. And that kind of played into my strategy of going to the Illini, and the regional sets up better for me. It just does. So you got to strengths, you know.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, you got a choice how you spend your money, where you want to fish, how you want to fish. Right. Hey, you got some advice for co-anglers here?
For co-anglers, pack less tackle.
Yeah.
Take it easy, boater. Stick with about 5 rods. Change baits. Pack enough stuff in one backpack.
Yep.
Chip in, you know, some ice, some fuel money. It's expensive. Your BFL guy isn't a pro.
Right. He's a weekend warrior. He's got his big boat payments too, right?
And I can tell you, on a super tournament, if you include practice, I cover a lot of water. You know, I'm going to burn $150, $200 worth of fuel probably even before the tournament starts in practice. So, you know, chip in. I don't expect you to pay for all that, but $40-$50 goes a long way to have a good day.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I read some good advice earlier. You know, I've been doing the co-angling. I didn't realize some of the etiquette at first. I started as boater. I didn't know anything. I just cold cock entered. Luckily, I got a couple of really good co-anglers that said, "Hey, here's how it normally goes." They were helping me out, so that was cool. I see T. Tom's on here.
The very first BFL tournament I ever got in, I run as a co-angler in the LBL. I wanted to see how things run, how things went, and you know, I think I outfished my boater that day. Caught keeper. So
you definitely got to give gas money if you outfish him.
Well, I did. And that's
But you
cool.
always should. I mean, a lot of people say, well, he didn't go that far. Well, he spent more money on his pickup truck, hauling his boat for
Yeah.
2 to 4 hours both ways to get
Right.
here.
Right.
And boats aren't cheap, people. So, it's the best deal in fishing is co-angler.
Well, if you went and hired a guide for the day, you're going to spend $150 to $350. So
Oh,
40.
you go down to Florida, it's $500-600 for a day, and that's before bait. Last time I was down there, they wanted $50 a dozen shiners.
Right. Right.
I don't, that shiner on a cork, man. Uh, I don't like that cork fishing. They're like, well, that's how you're going to catch them. I'm like, no, I'm a real bass fisherman.
I Toho last spring, and I fished around some guys that were fishing shiners, and I caught some fish. I did not catch a big fish. I caught some 3.5, almost 4 pound fish, and I caught them on a floating worm. Actually, a weightless worm that I was pulling over the grass.
Oh yeah, yeah. Hey, Tom's is asking here if does fish spook easy even outside of spawn season. What's your thoughts on that, Jerry?
Fish spook easy. Is that
Yeah,
what he said?
yeah. If they spook
Yeah.
easy outside of spawn season.
Yeah, I think they do. I try to go in a place quiet. I drift a lot with the wind. Um, it's just something I learned to do in a 12-foot John boat. You know,
Yeah,
I let the wind push me. Almost, I won't say 90%, maybe 75 to 80% of guys always fish into the wind with their trolling motor. You might get a little bit better boat control, whatever, but you're also casting into the wind. A lot of times, if I'm throwing a balsa flat side crankbait with a
yeah,
15-mile-an-hour wind, I want to throw the other direction.
yeah, yep,
I also feel like if 6 guys have come up a bank and they all come against the current or against the wind, if I'm going the other direction, I'm maybe putting my lure in places that other fish haven't seen a bait.
yeah.
So I tend to drift a lot, and I think if I stay off the trolling motor, I'm definitely quieter.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I cannot believe how many boaters I've been with, um, are very loud on the trolling motor. Very loud coming in, way too close, I think, to targets and spook fish before we even get there.
Oh yeah,
So, um, as a co-angler, you should always be seeing where paying attention to stuff like this, where your boater's throwing. They're throwing at prime targets. So if you're coming by a prime target, even if you've got a different bait, I found doing better is looking at those secondary or tertiary targets that he's missing and picking bass off of those. Because just to remind you, in the BFL series, if you catch nothing, you get 20 participation points.
right.
If you're the top angler, you get 250 points. Approximately on average, 50% of people, according to the tournament and the location, and it varies, um, don't catch a bass. So if you go from not catching a bass at 20 points to catching one keeper bass, that's absolutely your first priority as a co-angler. You got to get that first keeper bass no matter what, because you go up you like 200 points instead of 20. It makes all the difference in the world.
You
So
know,
that's the first thing you got to do.
one thing that a lot of people don't realize, and we're learning by using live scope, fish don't bed in 2 or 3 foot of water a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of smallmouth on Kentucky Lake last year were bedding from 8 to 10 foot deep.
Yep. Yep.
To 10 foot deep out on these stump beds and stump flats.
Yep. Stump flats. Yep.
If you're a co-angler and your guy is concentrating on one stump in front of you, I promise you there are other stumps to your left and to your right. I promise
Yeah. So
you.
what you got to do is you got to pay attention.
put on a jig, put on a Carolina rig, a Ned rig, and drag and get that bite. If you're up shallow and you're fishing for a largemouth, you can throw a flat side crankbait. This is a chick magnet. These are really good pre-spawn.
Oh, I have. Hey, can you hold that one back up? I haven't seen that color. That is a really. Is that a custom color or a new color?
No, that's actually a chick magnet color.
Oh wow, I haven't seen that one. I love that hint of purple.
You can throw those in that 50-degree water, 48-degree water, up to about, well, pretty much until the fish go on the bed. Those fish, a lot of them, the largemouths, especially the bigger ones, she's sitting out in 5, 6, 7 foot of water. She may be sitting on a stump. She may be sitting on an old rubber tire or a 5-gallon bucket. There's no telling what she's sitting on. A lawn chair.
An old tire.
Oh, but you can catch that fish out there just kind of roaming around out in 4 or 5 foot of water when the guy is casting to obvious cover up on the bank. A chatterbait. I don't know how many fish my girlfriend has caught behind me on a white jackhammer chatter, yep. Just pulling it behind the boat in 4, 5, 6 foot of water.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The fish are all around you that time of year. You don't have to throw where that guy's throwing to catch fish.
And back to that spook comment, one thing I read a bunch on, actually just over this winter, that I've done a little bit on, but you get hung up, is the throwing back of the boat. If he comes in hot down that shoreline, they're going to spook. But 20, 30 seconds later, they're going to wander back to their spot. So if you're throwing him back of the boat, a lot of times you can hit that good cover or just being back of the boat and pick them up. That's another thing I picked up.
The tournament, I culled my 5th fish. My co-angler caught his only keeper of the day off a bed. We were going up this row of bushes. I seen a male on a bed. I spooked him. No doubt. He seen me. He spooked. Now the water was gin clear. His bed was only in maybe 18 inches of water. He was very, very shallow. He spooked and he went under a bush.
Yeah.
He just run off the nest under a bush. I turned around to the guy and I said, "Hey, buddy, it was a bass on this bed right here, and he just went under this bush. No more than and I've already passed the bush. No more than I got that out of my mouth." He said, "Oh, here he comes." The bass comes back out under the bush, goes straight to the bed. He makes a pitch and catches him on the first pitch.
Nice.
Only keeper he caught all day.
Yep.
I spooked the fish and he caught it.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, you can ask your boater. A lot of times, they'll have the console up. Now that everyone's basically turned over the lithium batteries, I got to save the power isn't such a big thing. You can say, "Hey, I use side imaging as my life scope as the co-angler, or I'm watching him coming in, or watch his screen up front and kind of pay attention, look for visual clues." So you kind of really got to almost have your head in the game more than the boater, because you don't know, you're kind of blind and not knowing where you're going. So you really got to pay attention.
One of the things I do is I turn all my electronics off.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of people saying, "Hey, fish are getting conditioned to them." And you know what? If it's obvious cover, or my home lake, I just know where the spots are. Yeah, I leave it off. And I do think there's a difference.
Second day of USA Bassin Classic, me and my partner, we turned our electronics off a lot. We had fished this same general area for 2 days. I had fished it in practice before. We knew wherever stump was, every brush pile.
Yep.
We didn't need it on, and we turned it off, and we went silent. And if you get one extra fish, if you get one extra bite by doing that, it's worth it. And that maybe goes back to my old school, in the John boat, no electronics. That's what I grew up doing.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, it's 9:04. Jerry's got a really early wake up time here. I really appreciate Jerry coming out. I think it's been an awesome show, an awesome kickoff of the live interview format. Thank everybody for coming out here. I don't have someone hard scheduled for next Monday yet. I'm working on a couple of people. And then the week after that will be my road trip to Gunnersville. So there'll be no string dem. But, I hope to know in the next few days here, I'll get next week's set up here.
That Gunnersville, that's going to be a great tournament for you.
Oh, yeah, it's on my bucket list. I've never fished there. I was talking about it last week. One of the boaters in the Illini division, Terry Holzapfel, he's always in the top 10 here. He went down there last year as a co-angler. Same one. First tournament, he won it with 20 pounds.
All right.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, THM, the famous, the man, the myth, the legend. The guy that got me started doing this YouTube stuff. Thanks for hopping on.
Gabe probably took the photo that you used for the channel.
He did. He did. He probably recognized that photo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure Gabe's got a bunch of fans here. Thanks so much for showing up, Gabe.
I got to fish 2 days on Gunnersville last spring, and the first fish I caught was between 5.5 and 6 pounds. Don't take your fairy wand down there. Pack some string.
Oh, yeah, that was a great comment. We should talk about that. I'm kind of used to fishing around here, and Jerry's like, "Hey, I've been down there fishing. You better put some bigger bats in the bag here and string up a little bit here, because you're going down there. You're just wildcatting a tournament, and you don't want to be breaking off and losing some of those big boys or big bass of the tournament, right?"
The average fish down there is going to be over 3 pounds. You're not fishing for 15. It's a 15-inch size limit, just like Kentucky, I think, but the average size fish down there is pushing 3 pounds, if not 3.5. You're going to catch 3 and 4 and 5 pound fish down there.
Yeah, I see that. I've been watching this Alabama bass angler. I think it's Ryan Salzman. He used to be on the BPT, didn't he, down there? So he's got some really good videos. Alabama Bass Guide, I think, is his moniker, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Lots of 20-pound bags. Yeah.
20 pounds
fishing with the big boys.
Tournament. It will take probably 30 pounds on a one day to win it, maybe more.
Yeah.
Somebody gets lucky, catches a couple 7s or a couple 8s. I mean, you can literally catch a 10-pounder there at Gunnersville. They've got them.
Oh yeah. So, what's your advice for me on Gunnersville? Oh yeah, I've looked at the stuff, the devil rig. You got the lipless. Everyone's throwing red, but I just saw some other videos. Mikey Balls was throwing some different colors according to the clarity and the sky conditions.
That's another good one.
Yep. And even jerk baits. That guy was doing, catching. I mean, he's jerk baiting like little ones are 2.5, 3 pounds, right?
Yeah. And that's a good bluegill lake. There's a lot of bluegill in there, and those fish chase bluegill in that grass. So your chartreuses, your yellows and oranges, it don't have to be red. I just think if it's got some stain to it, I think you need to throw some color.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was seeing.
A big chatterbait, a big spinnerbait. But the guys that win it, they're probably going to win it with a minnow. But
oh yeah,
I'm not throwing one. I'm chunking a big rattle trap or a big chatterbait or a big spinnerbait.
Yeah, I gotta imagine there's going to be a lot of scopers.
I can't catch somebody else's fish.
That's right. No,
I have learned. I have to fish for my fish.
Right.
I can't go and do what somebody else is doing. I have to catch the fish that I know how to catch.
It's such a mental game. You gotta, when you're practicing, go practice new techniques. You know, if you're bringing a new technique to a tournament and you doubt yourself at all or something, man, you know, that's a tough thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey,
But
THM, got any advice for co-anglers here? You know, we're kind of co-angler focused like you here. We've got Jerry's done both sides of it. I know you have all your live streams here. We got a couple of newer guys here, you know, being the little bitty channel. A-rig, definitely an A-rig. Need the grass back in Kentucky. Well, it's starting to come back a little bit, isn't it, Jerry? The grass? A little bit.
if people will claim, you know, if you get down around New Johnsonville, further down the lake, they'll occasionally see some patches of grass. It hadn't really stayed. I think we need another couple years of good, clean, low water. Then we might see some grass.
What changes makes the water really dirty or clean is the whole river system there. What was the big change that killed the grass a few years back?
For years, we had some really bad floods in spring. And I work for TVA. I don't work at the dam. I work at the power plant. But they run 150, 175,000 CFM through Kentucky Dam for weeks at a time. And it literally just took that grass with it.
From the current,
and also at the same time we had all that big carp influx. So nobody really knows whether it was the carp or whether it was the current or if it was a combination of both. But I know this: Pickwick's probably, you know, it's upstream. Pickwick doesn't have the grass now that it did 4 or 5 years ago. So the same stuff is kind of went on at Pickwick. You know, there's eelgrass up the river. I fished some eelgrass during that original. I'm sure Gabe probably spent more time up there than I did. But there's not the grass in Pickwick that there was 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll do it. Or I see around here, you know, it's Illinois is just farm pond runoff, and all the chemicals the farmers are putting out are going in, and I'm sure that's part of it too.
And it could be. But, you know, in some places when you get to Guntersville, TVA and other authorities actually spray the grass because there is so much grass. That's a whole nother, you can do a whole at one night.
Yeah. A lot of controversy down in the South on grass clearing and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah, he said they had very little grass in October here. Yeah. Stay positive and focused. Yeah, we were talking about that, Gabe. It's such a fishing is such a mental game, and being in the back of the boat, it's almost more because you're just following the guy in front of you. So I know early on, I kind of, you know, the day gets by and you're thinking, God, it's 12 o'clock. I don't have a fish. This tournament's over. Well, it's game over if you think it's over. You got to keep your head in the game to the ninth inning, man. Right?
That's right.
Even as a boater.
Hey, that Senior Bass Classic, the second day, I think we had 2 keepers in the spot that we had been fishing, and we made a decision to move. We were running down river to another spot, and my partner says, "Hey, man, let's cut in here and fish here." And I was planning on hitting it on the way back. And we run in there. I think about my third cast, I catch a 4-pounder. He catches about a 3-pound smallmouth the very next cast. So we go from having 2 keepers to having, you know, double the amount with 2 good keepers. And then we ended up finishing our limit a little while later. I lost a good fish in there too. So just 5 minutes, man. It can happen in 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah. In the Kentucky Lake Super Tournament, we're coming in. We're right in front of the area. We got like 5 minutes left because it's 10 minutes before we're going in. We're pulling up, and all those little drains and ditches are coming up in front of the Paris Marina there. And I look over on the boater's console, and I see a high spot over to the right. You know, and he had passed it. He was tossing right up on it. I tossed it over there, a worm. He must have hit it on the way down. Boom, third fish, nice 2-pounder. Put me in day 2,
right,
with 5 minutes left.
Right.
You
Okay.
never know. You got to keep your head in the game.
Keep your head in the game and don't quit on yourself.
Yeah, yeah. Positive mental attitude, very, very important. And you know, you got to have confidence in what you're throwing to here. So, you know, if you do your practice, you watch all these videos like, you know, the new baits, and my grandpa used to say, that lure catches more fishermen than fish, I bet. Remember we were talking about that earlier?
Yeah.
So, you know, go with what you know.
Yes, sir.
All righty. Well, thanks everybody. It was a great kickoff of the real live stream this year. And like I said, I'm trying to get someone scheduled up here for next Monday. And thank everyone for showing up. And if you got ideas for topics, let me know here. Special thanks to Jerry giving us the old school bassin talk, and cameo appearance by Gabe here.
Hey, I appreciate it. Anytime.
Yeah,
Ready to go.
I'll be calling you.
Go. Let's go.
Well, yeah, we're going to do some videos this year. We were talking about that offline here, so we're going to do some more backwaters fishing.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, take care, everybody. Thanks for coming out. Keep your lines tight.